Okay, so what we're going to do is go through the very kind of basic top level features of the Powwow platform that allow you to create a digital model of your farm. And we can dive in a little bit deeper at the places where I'll pause, and we can discuss anything that I haven't made clear during the presentation. First, I want to give you just a little bit of background on OpenFarm. What I'm doing today here is part of a larger set of educational materials. So today is the digital copy of your farm. There's other stuff available. We've got ET-based scheduling, so evapotranspiration-based scheduling using Crop Monitor, methods for adjusting your weekly ET-based schedule, and then also how to use aerial imagery and partial ET to reduce your costs and increase your profits. So the OpenFarm community it's a community of farms, academic programs, and vendors. And the idea is that we're committed to an open data environment and promoting new technologies. And we recognize that one thing that's important in doing that is providing the possibility for career development. So education on digital models of farms is a part of that. And that's what this particular session is about. So I'm going to start off the way this presentation is organized is it's in 6 sections. First is just creating an account. Then we go into the components of a digital farm, adding a pump, connecting to data providers so that you can get information from your pumps in your fields, defining the field, locating a weather station, and then how you can share information with the rest of your company and advisors. So we'll dive right in with creating a farm account. So if you go to powwow.io and select login, which is up there in the upper right, you can click I need to register and create your own account. Or in the case of the two of you, you'd be logging into your existing account, which is a user in a company that's already been created. So if you have your own farm that you're interested in creating your own farm account for, instead of simply logging in with your existing login credentials, you can create a new login by clicking on I need to register, filling in your information, and clicking register, and then create a digital model of your own farm. As far as this farm account goes, we're responsible for data integrity and for following the privacy terms and tech support. If you run into any problems, we'll help you with tech support. But the user is responsible for the password, creating ranches, putting the assets on those ranches like fields and pumps, and making sure that the data they put in there is accurate so that the digital model is useful. If you do forget your password, you can always reset it. So you'll just navigate to the login page, click on Forgot Password, enter your email, go get it, and go reset your password. Pretty straightforward, but we can't do that for you because we don't know your password. So that's one of the user's responsibilities. So let's start right off with the very first basic steps, which is creating a ranch. So you'll click on Assets once you've logged into the account. You'll then select Add Ranch, which is over to the right and top, and you'll put a name in, and then click Create. And that then gives you a place to put all of the assets that you're going to be creating during this course. So that ranch name, and you can have multiple ranches in a single account. That ranch name is where all the assets will be going. The next section we're going to go through here is how you add a pump, which is the very first asset you need to add to your digital copy of your farm. And this is your water source. So we'll go through the characteristics of how you add a pump and what the characteristics of a pump are. So you're going to be using map tools to add a pump. The very first step is to click in the upper right-hand corner where the map tools are, and it'll bring a drop-down menu. And in that drop-down menu, you'll just click Add Pump. After that, you find a location on the map that is where your pump is located. Click on that, and then fill out the information. And we'll go into what those pump details are in the next slide. But it's a pretty simple matter to add your first pump. The way you define a pump, first we need a name because we need to be able to refer to that pump. And you can have pumps that have the same name in different ranches, but you might find that confusing. So you would like to pick a name that is unique. And then you choose the ranch that pump will be on. In this case, we've only created one ranch, so it's going to go on that ranch. And then we need additional information, the power of that pump, and whether or not whether it's a single speed or a variable frequency drive. And then we need to know what the water source is. So is the water running through that pump coming out of a well? Is it coming from a canal? Is it surface water? Is it a booster that's pulling water off a reservoir? You have those options for the water source. And last but not least is what smart meter is that pump connected to? And we're going to show you later why that's important, but we're going to connect to a utility account so that the information from the smart meter can be associated with that pump in the digital model of the farm so that you've got a running record of power demand from that pump. The next step in creating a model of a pump is to do a pump test on it. And you can store that pump test in the file locker associated with that pump. So if you click on the pump, this pop-up window comes up with a summary tab, an energy tab, a water tab, configuration tab, pump test, and also file locker tab. And so you can click on that file locker tab, and then you add file, and you can choose the pump test file to store in that file locker. And that way you've got, every time you do a new pump test on a pump, you can store it there in that file locker, and you've got access to the history of all of your pump tests in that location that's easy to find in your digital model. And this is true of other components on the farm, that you'll have a file locker associated with it, and it's a good place to store information about that particular asset for later reference. The pump test data is important because it allows you to translate the energy record that's going to be coming from the smart meter into a water record. So in order to enter pump test data, you choose the pump test tab, which is one over from the file locker tab. You click on new pump test, and this will pop up. You can then enter your test name and date, and then there's some required information that needs to be there for it to be a valid pump test. And that's the pumping water level, the discharge pressure measured at the wellhead, the total dynamic head, which is the combination of the height that it's pumping and the pressure that it's discharging at, the measured flow, and the input horsepower and the overall pumping efficiency. Put those required fields in, and you've got a valid pump test. And our pump tests, we require 3-point pump tests to be able to meet the state's requirements for water reporting. So you would be doing one of these for 3 different flow rates and pressures. So you'd end up with 3 tests in total that you're entering in. And you click save, and you're done. And what this allows you to do is allows us to do, allows our platform to do, it allows us to take the energy record and convert it into a water record. And that way, the digital model of the pump that's on your digital model of your farm can actually provide you with day-by-day water records. So now we'll continue with the next section, which is connecting to your data providers. So data providers can be utility accounts, and it can also be telemetry accounts if you've got other sensors, sensors other than smart meters sitting out in on your farm. So connecting to a utility account is fairly straightforward. You'll click on your name, and then a menu will pop up. You'll see utility logins. You'll click on utility logins, and you create a utility login. And in the case of your two accounts, those are set up, those are done. So this has been done, but if you choose to do this for your own farm, you'll want to create a utility login for your farm. Then you choose the provider. You know, that could be PG&E, could be Southern California Edison, might be San Diego Gas and Electric. Enter the username and password for the utility account so that our system has the ability to log into your utility account. And then click continue, and that will be verified. So pretty straightforward. If you want to connect to a telemetry account, so if you have soil moisture sensors or pressure switches that are monitored in your field, you'll have a telemetry account that you access that data from, and we can connect to those accounts that have published APIs and that are compatible with our system. So in order to set that up, you connect to a telemetry account by choosing data providers in that same menu we just looked at. Click Create Data Login. It's very similar to a utility account. And you choose from the list of the supported providers. And once you've chosen your specific one, you enter the username and password and click Continue, and you're now connected to a telemetry account. So what that allows you to do is it allows you to put sensors, the telemetry account allows you to put sensors in your field, place them just like you would place a pump, and connect them to a data provider, your telemetry account, and then you can view data from that sensor right from our platform in the overview. In this case, what we're looking at is a Thule sensor where the blue line is indicating the actual evapotranspiration measured, and the turquoise bars indicate when irrigation events have occurred. So those are connected to a pressure switch that's hooked up to that same telemetry station, that same sensor station. And there's a lot more on this in our later crop monitor sessions on how to use these sensors to give you valuable information when you're setting your ET schedules. The next component that needs to be added to a farm, we've added a pump with a water source. We've figured out how to connect, that is a water source. We figured out how to connect that to the data that's associated with that pump. And we've also illustrated how to connect to sensors that are in fields, but now we're going to illustrate how to define a field, which is the water demand on the farm, and how to configure that field. So in order to add a field, you use the same tools that we used for pump. You go to the map tools in the upper right-hand corner. First, you want to set your screen up where you're looking at the field location on the map. Then you'll go to that map tools in the corner, you click on it, and you'll select Add Field, and then define the field boundaries by clicking on the corners of it. And then you fill in the required details there, which are the name, ranch, crop, and planting date, so we know the age of the crop. Then you click Save, and you've got a field. Now, the field requires a bunch of configuration details as well. So we've put many of them in just now because we gave it a name, a plant date, and the crop type. But there's also configuration details associated with the irrigation system, and there's details for the crop stages that can be edited. We're going to get into that at in a later course. We're not going to do that today. So we'll be configuring the irrigation system in hour 2, but just know that this is where it is done. You click on the field that you've created, you navigate to the configuration tab, and then you have access to all the various details associated with that field. So the crop, the variety, when it was planted. Also, you can expand crop stages, and then you can explore the crop model that is dependent on that crop, and you can edit that. But we'll do that in later courses, not in this particular one. So now you've got a pump and you've got a field, and you know how you connect to information associated with the pump and the field. And your basic digital copy of the farm is set up. You can see here that once you've done this much, you have the ability to look at historical evapotranspiration of the crop in that field based on CIMMYS historical data. So in this case, I'm looking at a walnut orchard along the Central Coast. So it has relatively low ET peaks during the summer, but has a total evapotranspiration for the season. So the total water demand for the season is 28.84 inches. So the next section that we're going to talk about here is a virtual weather station. So it's one more data service. And I'm going to describe how placing a virtual weather station on your farm. So if you want to configure it, you'll first click on the today's forecast. It's in the top middle of the screen. And then go down to the bottom of that menu that pulls up settings. You'll click on that. And then you want to select the location because some ranches are spread out geographically pretty significantly. And you may want the weather for a specific location on that ranch. And that's what you do here. You can choose the pump asset that you'd like your weather to be defined from. And then you also choose which 2 sensors. In this case, the reference evapotranspiration, high temperature, low temperature, rainfall. You can choose any 2 of those to display at any one time. You click save, and then when you next click on today's forecast, it gives you your full week and the 2 sensors that you've chosen right there. So in this case, you can see the coming week's expected evapotranspiration demand. Now, that's not a crop evapotranspiration crop demand. It's a reference ET, which has to be multiplied by a crop coefficient. But it gives you an idea of the coming days when there will be high ET demand and when there will be low. So how does it work? As I said, the location is determined by your choice of pump that you've selected in the settings. And so the location of that asset determines the latitude and longitude that's used by the Weather Service to give you the forecast. And you can modify that by the user. The sources we use are National Weather Service, DTN, and CIMMYS. All of our historical data is typically CIMMYS. We have 3 possible choices because sometimes one or two of them may be down. And we've had instances where both the National Weather Service and CIMMYS are down, and we're dependent on DTN. So it's a good thing we've got redundancy in the weather. So now the last thing is you can add more ranches and more assets. So you can remember that the pumps and fields that you create will be put inside of a ranch. So if you want to segregate things, you can create separate ranches and then place the new pumps and fields within each of those separate ranches. But remember that the weather forecast that's at the top of the map for any given account is going to be tied to a single ranch location, even if you've got multiple ranches. And you can change what it is, but it's tied to one. So the last piece that I want to go over is how you share information with others. Once you've got a digital copy and you've tied into your different data services and utility and telemetry accounts, how do you share that information with others? So we're going to go over both company staff and advisors. You're going to click on your name again at the top right corner of the account, choose user accounts. And on that, you add a user, and then you want to choose the role of that user. So you're going to fill in the name and a mobile number so that they can receive text alerts. And then you're going to choose a role. So in this case, the role that's chosen here is ranch crew, which is they can receive text alerts. They can send text messages back, but they don't have access to the online account. All the other ones, ranch manager, office staff, account controller, they all have access to the online account that we've been going through. And if you are, which in both your cases you are, if you're subscribed to Pump Monitor, Ranch Monitor, Crop Monitor, you can choose for each individual user which weekly or monthly reports they're going to be receiving. So the ranch manager may not be interested in the monthly solar return on investment report, but might be intensely interested in receiving a weekly ET forecast and a weekly water pumping report. So each user can be custom, can custom select what reports they're going to be receiving and whether they're going to receive alerts via text or email. Once you've configured a user, click save, and they're now part of the system. So the sorts of users that you would configure that way are the employees, basically, what we just went through, but they're also advisors. And advisors fall in a lot of different categories. So somebody like a pump tester who you're interested in providing the information so that they can go access a pump to do a pump test. You may have a PCA that you would like to give information for imagery for a field, so you can point out which part of a field you'd like them to head to. You may have an agronomist, a consulting agronomist that you'd like to give access so that they can provide you with a weekly or bi-weekly ET recommendation, an irrigation recommendation. There's a lot of different types of advisors that you may want. Let me show you how to set up an advisor account. So if you want to add an advisor, it's very similar to the employees. So you choose the user accounts. On the new page, you click add advisor instead of add user. And a list pops up that are registered advisors. So if your advisor isn't on that list, simply ask them to register online on the powwow.io, and then they will become part of this community of advisors that are set up to utilize powwow. And then you click save, and there you have to. In this case, you can choose specific ranches for an advisor. It gives you a little bit of selectivity if you've got a large operation, part of which is one particular crop with one particular agronomist. You may just give them access to that ranch and another ranch with a different crop for another advisor.